Good afternoon, folks. And instead of me rambling on about Final Fantasy Remake 7 demo or whatever all the reviews are going in, we're going to talk about nostalgia. We're going to talk about things that we have all experienced in some regard to JRPGs or the franchise that is Square Enix's or Square's Final Fantasy. So we're going to look at a poll from NHK. And NHK is a broadcasting station in Japan. It's a government-owned one, so it's kind of like the CBC here in Canada. And they did a poll for what's the top this or that in the Final Fantasy universe, or the Final Fantasy franchise specifically. Because everyone who's tried the Final Fantasy VII demo loves it. It's a blast from the past. What is old is new again, and they've just done exactly what they should have done 10 years ago, which is remake the thing everyone wanted, with better technology, better visuals, better sounds, better music. And they just take the original pieces of music, they take the original design of the characters, and they make it new. And it just gives the people what they want. Final Fantasy VII, when it came out back in, was it 97 or 98? I can't remember exactly. Turned people on to the PlayStation. They say, wow, I don't like playing video games, but that's a game I want to check out. Why? Graphics. It looked amazing. The FMVs, the music. I wouldn't say the polygon graphics of the sprites, but the actual pre-rendered ones felt like you were playing some weird Star Wars type of game, but it was instead in a steampunk fantasy world with magic and chickens running around like horses. So that got people into RPGs or JRPGs when previously they weren't. And this is during the golden age of RPGs, the 90s with Super Nintendo. So the jump to the PlayStation was a big change. And by that time, I was still playing Castlevania, Symphony of the Night on PlayStation, Secret of Mana. Chrono Trigger came out as well during those years. So all kinds of great games on the consoles were there. So let's look at some of the Final Fantasy poll results that people find popular in Japan. I'm assuming this is Japan. Now, the results only cover 460 votes, which we know is not much. And this still gives us a different taste of what the people in Japan spent money on or are nostalgic about or recall, as opposed to what I recall. So we're going to see what we like about Final Fantasy. There's a few polls that sort of make you go, huh, really? That's what they like. That's interesting. I wonder why. Look at the first one here. So the top 30 games in the Final Fantasy series. So this surprised me. Final Fantasy X. I knew it was popular. I didn't know how popular, though, that people liked this amongst the rest. 7, I can understand the world-renowned intrigue. But for me, the real Final Fantasy out of all this is 6. If we're going to talk about a JRPG. 6 is really what it's all about. And if I were to compare that to 7, 7 is the refined version of 6 with a bigger budget, like a way bigger budget, way more people involved. So all the inspiration, all the actual results of 7, I say I could trace it back to 6 in some way. 9 is a return to form after 8 didn't really do so well, at least in my mind, creatively. And it simplified things. It streamlined things. It made things simpler. It made a fairy tale world go back to medieval stories or medieval genre. And it really made things like a feel-good sort of experience. Whereas the other ones were trying to be edgy and dramatic and epic. 9 just wanted to tell a magical story. 14, I can't comment on. 5, I can barely comment on. 8, I've played twice, and I really try to get through my second playthrough. It's such a strange game. 4 was kind of like the definitive, I think it was the first Final Fantasy, or Final Fantasy II in North America. 11, yeah. 15, I haven't tried it. And here's my other favorite. So really, it's 6 and Tactics to me are what Final Fantasy is all about. Tactics is why I bought a PlayStation. It came with the PlayStation. That's why I bought it. And that was, to me, is the benchmark for tactical RPGs or Japanese tactical RPGs. And that's why I always look at other tactical RPGs or Asian tactical RPGs or even Western tactical RPGs like XCOM. I always compare it to Tactics, which is a very strange comparison, but this was the benchmark. It still is the golden standard for TRPGs, I think, even compared to other companies like Atlas, who do all kinds of other games like that. So I can go down the list here. I know most of them. Crisis Core I played on the PSP. It's a mobile game. Let's see what else here. Dissidia, it's a fighting game on PSP as well. And here's Record Keeper, one of the first mobile devices, cellular phones, etc., smartphones. No Brave Exvius, as far as I can tell, which is interesting because that was pretty popular. So I don't know how Record Keeper got on there, unless it's just more popular as a result of being older. But Brave Exvius, I think, is dominating the downloads of the smartphone market. So anyway, to me, it's all about 6 and Tactics. So nice to know that people like the more happier spirited protagonist who we make all these memes about because of his voice acting in North America and very strange isekai world. I think, yeah, that's the first. This is back in 2001, 2002. I'm trying to remember when 10 came out. But that was being transported to another world storyline or premise. So I guess that was the starting point for many other authors in manga or in anime or gaming to start the isekai genre. I don't know. Okay, the top 90 Final Fantasy characters. My goodness, how do they properly track this? So, if you don't know Cloud, you probably don't know a thing about Final Fantasies. That's okay. Yuna, she's the heroine of Final Fantasy X. She's still a side character, but she is the main female lead. Aerith, or Eris, Final Fantasy VII, female lead, or one of them. Vivi, he, or it, is perhaps the cutest looking character in all of Final Fantasy, next to a Chocobo or a Moogle, and it is a black mage robot creature thing. He's adorable. Zidane, main protagonist of Final Fantasy IX. Emmett, Zelk, I have no idea. Titus, protagonist of Final Fantasy X. Lightning, I don't care. Tifa, we don't know Tifa. Zack, Crisis Core, as well as Final Fantasy VII. Sephiroth, Final Fantasy VII, no idea. 15, 8, 10. Gilgamesh has been throughout the series. He's been like a boss character, mostly. Terra. See, to me, this is what I think about when I think of Final Fantasy VI. I think of Terra or Tina's theme walking through the snow in the intro to Final Fantasy VI or 3 on a giant mech, and she's brainwashed, and all the conflicts and events that happen to Terra. That, to me, is what it's all about. Kain. Kain's another reoccurring character, whether you're talking about Final Fantasy 2 or 4, or Kain Highwind, I believe. No, Kain was Final Fantasy 2. Sid is the recurring name. Right, okay. Celeste, one of the other main heroines of Final Fantasy 6. So it's really Terra, Celeste, and Locke, to me, are the memorable characters in the Final Fantasy series. And so until we start talking about Final Fantasy Tactics, then we got a cast. And that's when things get interesting. Vincent, 7, Edgar, 6, Shantoto, I think that's a multiplayer online game character. Bartz is 5, Laguna, that was a flashback of Final Fantasy VIII, I believe. It was Squall's dad. Riku is 10. Ignis, I don't remember. Balthier is 12, the leading man. Ferris is 5. Agrius, there we go. The first Final Fantasy Tactics character. A female knight protecting Queen Ovelia, or Princess Ovelia, in Final Fantasy Tactics. Just finally we get a Final Fantasy Tactics character in here. Interesting how that works out. I'm not going to go through the list, but I don't know half of these anyway. But just goes to show you where my tastes line up. So we have another list of the top 20 bosses and summons. Now, in some cases, the summons were actual bosses. Many storylines in Final Fantasy have you fighting the the elemental of a certain element or certain creature. So you have the element of air, the element of ice, and that all changes within the game system. For example, in Final Fantasy VIII, you have a junction system. You have to defeat one of the elementals, like Ifrit, and then you can junction him into you, and you gain his powers, etc., etc. So this is an interesting look at both things. Now, the funny thing is, the most well-known is Knights of the Round Final Fantasy VII for being the most ridiculous summon. I think it's a 2.5-minute summon, and it just completely annihilates whatever you're fighting. It's sort of like a cheat. It's non-skippable. It's like, oh, I beat the game. Just wait 2 minutes while all these knights, these 10 knights come by and just beat the crap out of whatever you're attacking, which is kind of funny because it's such a joke. And they made a whole cutscene out of summoning in Final Fantasy VII. So I find it funny it got up there. And of course, thankfully, people remember Kefka, which is just a more interesting version, I would say, of a villain than Sephiroth in Final Fantasy VII. Kefka was, throughout the story, a villain. He destroyed the planet. He is the final boss. He has epic levels of stages at the ending. He is definitively the bad guy of the Final Fantasy series for me. And if you talk about crazy people, if you talk about people who are mad, why is this villain doing what they're doing? He is the product of genetic engineering and magic and causing insanity, kind of like a Joker character. He is actually depicted as a clown. So this all makes sense to me in my head. And I think to me, that's a villain. Like if you want to think about insanity and conquering the world, Kefka's the guy to look at. Hades, I have no idea. Anima, don't know. Never played that far in Final Fantasy X. Omega, no idea. Oh wait, no, I do know Omega. Omega was I think it was a mech in Final Fantasy. He was a temporary mech, like a sub-boss, and then you could actually defeat him in his stronger version. I don't recall exactly. Veil 4? Oh, wow. Don't remember exactly. It sounds familiar. Don't know this. Bahamut Zero, yep. Remember that one. Final Fantasy 7. Sildra, this was a big story with Rida, I believe, Iridia, for Final Fantasy 2 or 4. Safer Sephiroth is, again, just a more refined version of Kefka. And Kefka and Sephiroth and their final bosses go through multiple transformations. So take that, what you find more appealing. I think the music and the scene itself was just as epic in 6 and 7, so take your pick. Shiva, Final Fantasy X. Shiva's been a pretty well-known... When you think of summons, probably the first one you get next to Ifrit. I'm surprised Ifrit is not on this list. Bahamut, again, a very big... the strongest of all the summons throughout the stories of Final Fantasy. Rubicante. Wow, what a memorable character from Final Fantasy II or Final Fantasy IV in Japan. The fire element or fire boss. He had this magical cloak he would defend himself with, and you have to do tactics in the ATB system. So that was memorable. No idea. Don't quite remember that. I'm trying to remember, but I can't. Ghost Train. This was that was a pretty memorable fight where you have Sabin can suplex a train while you're fighting with Cyan and I think a Moogle. I'm trying to remember all the three characters there. Yeah, it was a Moogle, Sabin, and Cyan fighting a train, running away from a train while attacking it. And Sabin can suplex it. I remember doing and plus you get that as a summon as well. Odin also, again, all throughout the game. Summons, villains, sub-bosses, etc. Omega, Titan. Yeah, I don't know this one, but Omega has been throughout the series as well as Titan. So yeah, that's interesting that Knights of the Round became number 1. And here we have the top 20 Final Fantasy songs. Now, there's lots and lots of memorable songs from Mr. Uematsu, who's pretty much titled most of them. There's been other, of course, musicians, but he's done the majority of them, and what a talent. He just doesn't slow down. surprising to Zanarkand. If you don't remember the Zanarkand song, I think it's the title screen. It's the piano medley of Final Fantasy X. I could be wrong, but to me, this is reminiscent of when I think of Mass Effect. What does Mass Effect mean to me in a song? And it's the title screen of the first Mass Effect, which is called Vigil's Theme. So that memorable scene when you have Liara with you, or Tali, or whomever, and you get to Ilos, and there's Vigil, and that music starts playing. That's what I think of Mass Effect. So maybe that's the same sentiment with people in Japan with Final Fantasy X. Obviously, Final Fantasy X was very popular there. Clash on the Big Bridge. If you don't remember this song, this is from whenever you fight Gilgamesh, I think. That's his theme song, The Clash on the Big Bridge. And all his incarnations, he's always been that sub-boss who just gets getting stronger and stronger. Eyes on Me. Oh, this is sad. Final Fantasy VIII is a mixed bag for many reasons, really. This song plays in the most strangest moments when, in Final Fantasy VIII, you're in space, you've just saved Renoa, you're in 0G, and you start professing your feelings for this girl you barely care about. And it's just the most melodramatic piece of crap I've ever. It's just like, what is going on in this? Final Fantasy is a mixed bag, so to grasp the drama takes a lot of suspension, a willing suspension of disbelief to care about these characters. Searching for Friends. If you don't know this song, and you've never played Final Fantasy VI, and if this doesn't get you to play it, I don't know what will. This is Tina or Terra's theme on the overworld map, I believe, if I remember correctly. I was wrong. It was the it was the airship theme. Yeah, that's the very memorable flute song from the game. Wow, that brings back memories right there. Blinded by Light, don't know. One Wing Angel, very famous. Final Fantasy VII ending boss to Sephiroth. Once you hear it, you know exactly what you're talking about. I shouldn't have to play it for you. Dancing Mad would be its equivalent in Final Fantasy VI. I think this is much more memorable because of how many variations there are of it, and because of how many variations there are of Kefka. This is a 17-minute song. It's absolutely brilliant, and you should play the game just for that alone. Aerith's theme, wow. Another piano theme, very memorable. Got to give it to that. Melodies of Life, don't remember, but I'm sure it was very princess-like, maybe sung by the female lead. Main theme of Final Fantasy is the harp scale. It's the same thing throughout all the series, usually a title theme. Those Who Fight Further, this is the boss battle. It's a metal track, I believe, of Final Fantasy VII. Yeah. Yep, for sure. This is a love theme, I believe, of Final Fantasy X. I don't remember playing that far, but I think it's when Yuna is going to sacrifice herself. I can't recall. You're Not Alone. Don't remember. Place to Go Home. Don't remember. Wow. More Final Fantasy X. Decisive Battle. This one is very memorable to me. Whenever you face a battle, or sorry, face a boss. So just like Those Who Fight Further in Final Fantasy VII, this is the 6th equivalent. Yep, to me, that's, again, Final Fantasy VI and Tactics are what it's all about. I'm surprised there's no Final Fantasy Tactics music here. It's fantastic. Got to give credit to the production value of Final Fantasy Tactics for its time. Just killing it. Terra's theme, this is the theme, I would say, of Final Fantasy VI. This is the intro when she's walking around on her mech in the snow, being controlled by Biggs and Wedge. Yep, that is, again, the flute back. It's just fantastic stuff. And the man with the machine gun, this one I remember, just because it was so different. And it's a flashback scene of Squall's dad. And it's just like, what? Like, Squall has a gun blade. This guy has a machine gun. Okay, it's just very awkward when you're playing. It's like, what's going on in the background? How is this happening? Very cool stuff. I mean, this is just brings back so many memories of the Final Fantasy world, but really it all comes down to 6 and tactics for me. This is obviously different than the Japanese market and sensibilities as 10 and 7 has showed us, as well as the mobile games. But tell me, guys, what is your most memorable moment from Final Fantasy X? Whether it's a boss, a piece of music, a scene, a battle, a stage, whatever it is. Tell me in the comments below. I'm curious because this has always been part of my childhood as well as my elder years. Mobile gaming, smartphone gaming, console gaming, PC gaming. It's always been present. And I'm glad that Square Enix is still around and we're getting nostalgia up the wazoo and loving every chance we get. Thanks, guys, for listening. Have yourself a great day.